You're listening to the Life Friendly Business Podcast. I'm your host, Erin Thomas Wong, business mentor, author, and founder of the Cocoon VIP membership, empowering women around the world to build businesses on their terms. If you want to grow and scale a business that works in harmony with your family and your life, this podcast is for you. Hello, I'm Erin Thomas Wong. I'm the host of the Life Friendly Business Podcast. And today I've got quite a fascinating one for you. I'm speaking to Susannah Rafelle, the founder of Self-Selection for Animals. Susannah is an animal communicator, animal healer, and teacher. And we're going to be talking about the challenges of running a heart-led business and still charging what you're worth. Hi, Susannah. Thank you so much for joining me on the Life Friendly Business Podcast.
Hi, Erin. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited for you to share what it is that you do. But first of all, I want to ask you why you started your own business in the first place.
Well, I had a lovely horse called Amy who had been with me since I was 12. And the impetus for me to start actually being an animal healer was her not being very well. So when she got to be 32, which is pretty old in horse years, she became really lame. And the timing of it was really perfect because I'd signed up to do a course about animal self-selection. And the course that I went on actually really helped her, and she was able to stay with me for another 3.5 years. So that was kind of the background to me wanting to do animal healing and animal communication as a career. But my impetus really was that I'd been ill for a really long time and that I wanted to be able to do something I was passionate about, but be able to manage my hours and work within a time frame that worked for me.
That's wonderful. And how long did it take you to kind of get started with the business and feel like you'd been able to do that? So you were running a business, but you're also being able to have that life friendly approach where you're able to look after your well-being as well.
Yes, I guess it took a little bit of time, a bit of adjustment. I was working part-time in education when I decided to stop doing that and just completely switch to working for myself. So I had that kind of experience of dropping off a cliff a little bit, I suppose, where I was adjusting to something really new. But automatically I found that my energy levels improved and that I was able to work around my energy levels and find, is it the mornings that are best for me? Do I work better in the afternoon? And so it probably was only about 3 months and I started to feel the health benefits of working for myself. And, then it's been a question of working with that as business gets busier.
I love that, and I really resonate with that. And that's something that over the course of the lockdown, I really was able to become more in tune with my own energy levels. And I agree. I think, it makes such a difference to your productivity. And, we're told that you should be working 9:30 till 5:30 or 6. But I always have an afternoon slump. I'm always tired in the afternoon. I am such a morning person. And now that I'm able to control my own schedule, it means that I can do loads of stuff in the morning and then have a nap. And it's perfect. So for people who are listening, and I'm sure there's many who are thinking, what on earth do you mean that you can communicate with animals? Paint a picture of what that looks like.
Well, I know it's unusual. It's something I've always been able to do, talk to animals. And it took me about 40 years to realise that I could actually do that. It was quite funny, really, because I didn't realise I was doing anything different to anybody else, or that when people connected with an animal, they weren't having the same experience that I was having. And so that was a really interesting process, because when I realised, and it sort of came about from me doing a lot of healing classes, a lot of my own healing work and, working with animals on a daily basis, that I started to realise, wow, I am actually hearing messages. I think the first message I heard was a sheep saying, "Don't fuss me." And I thought, well, I heard that, and then I really laughed and turned to his owner and said, "This is what he said." So we went off and we sat and had a cup of tea and waited until he was ready to actually come over and interact. And that was during a self-selection session when I was helping him with herbs for arthritis. So it was a bit of an unexpected moment. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is the fact that I think we can all do this. Because any of us who've got animals, we are communicating with them on a daily basis, and we are responding to their prompts and to a look, and to, we know what a certain look means. We know what a certain huff means or a certain meow means. And so we're already doing it. And so, part of what I do now is I teach animal communication to people from all levels. You might not have ever meditated before, but it doesn't matter. I can help you to open up to your intuition.
It's fascinating. When you say that you hear a message, is it like, is it a sentence? Is it in English, or are you interpreting symbols, or, how does it work?
Well, there's lots of different ways that we can pick messages up. The ways that animals communicate to us are through words. I might hear a whole sentence. I might get a whole paragraph of them chatting about something. They might just say one word. That particular sheep that I was working with requested bananas at one point when he was coming towards end of life. Now, I've never known a sheep to eat bananas, but he ate a lot of bananas over the course of a week. When I sent that message to his mum, and she started to offer him bananas. Yep, bananas were the thing. And so it can be just one word. They're really good at giving visual messages. And I think it's the main way that animals communicate, actually. So they will show something, could be the image of a ball or a favourite toy, could be a person. And sometimes it's like watching a video replay. And for me, it's a bit like watching those old cine films that your grandparents had, of kids running around. And it will be maybe from their perspective, or maybe from them seeing something happening. And that's how I piece together what's been going on. Other things that can happen is that they can talk as a dog or a cat or a horse. So I might hear a whinny or a meow, and that's usually to get my attention. And I pick up other things like feelings. So for me, I can feel in my own body. So if it's an emotional subject, I might feel my heart aching, and I might get very emotional, and I might cry, and the animal guardians might cry as well. And that's really important release for the animal, because they can't cry. If you think about it, I think elephants are about the only animal that can shed tears. And so part of it is a very deep healing process in helping them to express their feelings. And they might also show me, so if it's something like a pain problem that they're having, I might feel it in my body. So I can say, well, I felt a pain in my knee. My right knee would be a dog's right back leg. So I don't diagnose, I'm not a vet, but I can pass on, this is what I'm picking up. And they just seem really good at it. And people have varying degrees of intuition. And I seem to be really blessed in that I can pick up in all the ways. But it doesn't mean that you can't develop those yourself. We've usually got one of them is stronger. One of the senses is stronger for us. And probably for me, it's the hearing and the seeing that I get most messages from.
And I know from conversations we've had in the past that you are able to give some comfort to animals at the end of life. And are they, do you have quite a lot of clients with, much loved pets who are at the end of their lives?
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, isn't it, of having an animal as part of your family. And I know what that feels like, and I know what the process is like. That can be really clinical and not very nice. You can be very worried about what is actually going to happen, what the steps are going to be, especially if you've not been through it before. And I think that it's a really important part of what I can do. When I started out in life, I thought I wanted to be a vet. And then I realised that having done a little bit of training with some vets, I could not do that step of putting an animal to sleep. And so if you'd asked me probably, 15 years ago, will you be able to support people going through that process with their animal on an energetic level, I would have thought I couldn't do it, because I'm an emotional person, and it is hard, to go there. But I think having been through that experience myself with my horse, and then with my mum's dogs, because she's lost quite a few in a short space of time, it's really shown me that I've got that resilience and ability to be able to support people who are grieving, and also to be able to, talk through things with the animal. What's their perspective? How are they feeling? Often it's the case that they are tired, they are ready. And that just really helps with, the decision-making process, and helps with the guilt. We feel guilty about making that decision very often.
And you mentioned earlier, very briefly, animal guardians. What does that mean?
Animal guardians. So I work with a lot of guides. My main guide is Archangel Michael, and he is a guardian for animals who comes through. So that's one sort of perspective of it. I don't refer to people as owners if I can help it. That's a thing that seems to have shifted over time. I know it's what we're used to calling it, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. But I found that by referring to people as animal guardians, there's a difference in the energy, because it's really what we do. We caretaker for our animals. We look after them. They're part of the family. We might not feel that we own them really on any level, because they're another being, another energy that we interact with. And we're probably much more likely to refer to ourselves as a dog mum or a cat mum than we are an owner now. And I think that's showing an overall change in the way that we think about our animals. And I also don't really say pets anymore. It was something that owners and pets was what everybody said. And I don't think the animals necessarily like being referred to as that. They want to be best friend and, much loved family member. So that's not really a word I use anymore either.
So I feel like we could talk about this all day, because it is so fascinating, but your business is called Self-Selection for Animals. So just explain what you mean by self-selection.
Yeah, so it's got a bigger name. What I'm actually trained in is something called applied zoo pharmacognosy. And that means that animals know how to select their own natural plant medicines. And it's been well documented in the wild that people like Jane Goodall, who's done lots of research and followed chimpanzees in the wild for years and years, has seen that chimpanzees will select certain medicinal plants when they're not well, that the local tribes people will also select for the same symptoms. So, for example, if a chimp appears to have a stomach upset, they'll eat a particular leaf of a plant that's very prickly and unpleasant, and they normally wouldn't eat it as a food. And the tribes people pick the same leaf and create a tea with it, to ease the same symptoms. And so what applied zoo pharmacognosy is bringing that back to our domestic animals. And we see that with our dogs and cats, where they go and eat a particular blade of grass. They'll drag us over to a clump of grass, and it won't be a general eating of the clump. It will be one strand in particular that is particularly important. And that's showing them their ancient memory that a grass will help with a digestive issue. And we're very often a bit scared about them eating it, because we think, oh no, they're going to be sick. But that's part of their natural mechanism. And so I work with essential oils and with herbs, and offer those to the animals so that they can choose from a range of different things. what's their favourite remedy for, say, anxiety or fear of fireworks. And they might want to inhale, but they might also want to lick or ingest those, and they might want to have them stroked on. And so it's a bit more than equine aromatherapy, which was the very first class I went on, which, prompts images of giving a horse a massage, which I'm sure they'd enjoy, but it's not, not quite the same thing. It's a lot more about them self-medicating.
I mean, I can't think of any other word apart from fascinating again, because it just is, and, we've got a dog and he does that. He goes out to the garden and starts eating the grass, and I'm like, okay, he's going to be sick. And, that's really interesting that they're kind of self-medicating because they know what they need to do. So, okay, so obviously, you're really passionate about what you do. You've got this amazing gift. How have you found running this as a business?
Well, it's a heart-led business, and it's a wonderful thing to do. I absolutely love my job, and my connection with people is very strong. I love people as well, which is so important. So, any communication is welcome, and I'm not scared of speaking to people or interacting with people. And so, the side of it where I'm in the public eye might be a bit more tricky for me in the past. I love giving talks, I found, which surprised me no end. I had no idea I was going to enjoy doing that, and doing live demonstrations. So that was really fun to find out that I like doing. But I think the side of it where, becoming visible and sort of putting yourself out there as an expert, I found maybe a little bit more uncomfortable, even though I've had a lot of experience and I've got a lot of qualifications. It's not a natural thing for me to want to do, it feels a little egotistical in some ways, which doesn't fit very well with me.
And this is the mindset that can be really limiting for so many small business owners, because we're brought up not to show off, aren't we, and not be egotistical and all those things. But the fact is that you need to get your message out there, and the only way you can do that is by standing up and saying, "This is what I can do, and I can help you." So I know that through the work that we've done together, one of the things, and this comes up a lot with heart-led businesses, is about charging for your services. And I know that's something that you've struggled with. So talk me through the journey that you've been on with that.
Oh my goodness, Erin, I certainly have struggled with it, haven't I? When I was doing Evolve Mastermind, the group was so brilliant. I would say, right, I need to talk about money again. Because there's a lack of confidence in it, I suppose. And I think that one of the big lessons I learned is about, what value is going into the service that is offered. And if somebody else in the group said, well, I do all these things in preparation for a client, and then I do the session, and this is how many hours it is, I would automatically jump to their defense and say, you need to be charging properly for that. I would expect to pay for that. That was one of the things that kept coming up. And I think that's it. I think it's the realization, the amount of energy that I put into, one client, one animal, and that there's a lot of preparation. I do research. I prepare energies for healing sessions, for my energies, for the animal's energies, and I'll talk to the client beforehand. They can have follow-up calls with me, and then there's the actual session itself. And, in the past, I was scared to charge very much for that because it feels like healing should be free. And I think that what I've realized is that I do give a lot freely, even when I'm working with somebody one-to-one, because I'm thinking about their animal a lot. If their animal pops in to have a chat with me, I don't turn them away. So it could be, 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm suddenly having a quick chat with a cat because they're just checking in. I don't even think about, that is an additional service somehow. It's part and parcel of what I do. And so I've really taken that step to own what I do and what the value is, and to start telling people what the value is. I think that's really important. You know, what's the hidden value that you're offering that people might not realize is there?
Absolutely. And that's where our messaging is so key in terms of explaining that. And like you say, you know, when you're pricing, not only do you have to think about the time that you're on a call with someone or you're doing that healing session, it's all the other time as well that goes around that. And you know, you should be charging for the transformation that happens, and you know, the outcome of what happens. And for you, you know, you're giving so much peace, not only to the animal but also to the owner. It can transform, you know, their lifestyle if they've got, you know, a challenging animal in the home and all those things. And I know that conversations that we had, and you know, and this comes up a lot as well, about wanting to make it affordable for people. There's this big thing where we spend a lot of time basically making judgments about how much we think people can afford. And the fact is that, like, it's none of our business how much people can afford. And we've got to think about us running a viable business, and, you know, and like you say, everything that we put into it. And the whole thing that, you know, people spend money on stuff that feels important to them. And, you know, we can do our best in our messaging to explain the benefits of what we're selling and what we're offering. But if they don't want to pay the money, then they don't want to pay the money, and that's okay. And we have to kind of be strong in ourselves rather than thinking, I need to reduce the price, and staying strong. So I know, you know, during the Evolve Mastermind, you put your prices up. What happened?
The very first person who booked in with me tipped me £10.
So that was your new higher price, and they gave you £10 extra.
They did. And I had another client who I'd been working with for only a few months, and I offered a bundle price before I put my price up. So I set the date, 1st of January, prices will go up. And she wrote to me and said, you're worth it. I don't need a bundle. I'm just going to pay you the new fee. And it hasn't impacted on the number of clients I've got. I've had people now, you know, booking in regularly on the new price. And I think what I've realized is that I feel more valued. I don't feel frustrated if there's extra phone calls or extra bits and pieces. And I think one of the examples I gave to you, Erin, was that I think I'd put in about 10 hours with one new client, which would be absolutely fine, except that I had travelled, I think, about 100-mile round trip to go and see them as well. And so, you know, by the time I'd finished, I'd been paid like £10 an hour, something like that. And it was one of those wake-up moments. And then I got COVID immediately after as well. And it was just like, okay, I'm kind of pushing myself here, and my desire to help is overriding my common sense. And so there has to be a boundary there as well, you know, like there has to be a boundary of, well, how much energy am I going to put into really make sure that other person is okay? And what could I do differently so that the outcome is the same, but I don't feel frazzled, you know? So that's really what I've been looking at, doing more distance work, which is just as effective. And people feel supported through video. So, you know, I've added a lot more of that in, and that's working really nicely.
That's brilliant that you've been able to learn from that and make changes, because I think, you know, yeah, as a heart-led business owner, and when you love what you do, it's so easy to just want to keep giving because it feels easy to you, because you're in your zone of genius. And so it feels like, well, why shouldn't I just give a free call here and a free call there? But at some point you hit that wall where it's just not sustainable, or you feel hard done by and annoyed because, you know, you've let people push your boundaries, and you know that's the point that it's got to change. So how important has having support in your business been?
Oh my goodness, I wish I'd had it at the start. I really do. it was one of those situations where I was very much on my own. I had other healers or healing teachers that I could talk to, but all of them were in the same boat of, what do we charge? How do we run a business? 7 years ago. So things have moved on somewhat since then as well about what's available online. I mean, now we see so many coaches and there are so many networking opportunities. But, for me, I've grown my business hugely over the past year by joining the Cocoon and interacting with all of the different activities that you've got going on within the Cocoon, and all of the little challenges. It's helped me to really step up and say, okay, I am actually a businesswoman as well as a healer and a zoopharmacologist. I can be both.
And what I love is the fact that the Cocoon does really attract quite a lot of holistic business owners. So for those people out there who are running heart-led businesses and maybe quite unique businesses who might feel like, but is getting business support relevant to me? Like, will these things be relevant to me? What would you say?
Very much so. I think that you don't necessarily realise what you don't know. And it's been such a time saver for me, apart from anything else, to be able to get access to information, to be able to ask questions and get that support. But it's the working on your own that is the biggest thing, because if you've worked with a team of people in the past and loved being part of a team, as I did, and then you're working on your own, you might love your own company, but who do you bounce an idea off of? Who's there to actually cheer you on a bit if you're having a bad day, or to actually cheer you on to a bigger project? If you've got a big idea, how are you going to achieve that by yourself? And I think as human beings, we interact better and grow more if we've got other people supporting us. And it can be quite lonely. I get lonely sometimes, but I don't feel as lonely with the Cocoon, and with that support and the people that I've met along the way. I've got a whole new network of friends who I know that I can ask questions of, and I can look for a little bit of support from if I need it, because they're all in the same boat.
I had a wonderful email the other day from a long-term Cocoon member, and I said, please can I use this line? Because she said something like, I love knowing that I've got this group of brilliant business minds and open hearts. And I was like, oh yeah, that is how the Cocoon is. It is, the women in there, everyone wants to help each other. There's no competition. It's all about collaboration and support. And it's wonderful. And I've loved supporting you and seeing you grow and get visible and help more people with what you do. So where can people find out about you?
Wow, I've got my brand new website. That was one of my goals with Evolve Mastermind, and I got there, very happy. It's www.selfselectionforanimals.co.uk. And it's 4 as in FOR rather than a number 4. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Self Selection for Animals. And you're welcome to get in touch with me, send me a friend request on Facebook as well, under Susannah Rafelle. I'd love to hear from you.
That's brilliant. And one final question. If you could go back in time and see Susannah when she was just starting this journey of starting her own business, what advice would you give her?
To look for a network of people, actually, business people, but not like-minded, as you say, heart-led business people, because some of the networking that I did early on was quite tricky because I didn't really fit in, and so I didn't persevere. And I think that I wish I'd had a little bit more knowledge about the internet generally and reaching out to groups worldwide, not just looking for something really local. And so I think that visibility would have come a lot quicker, and the confidence would have come a lot more quickly if I'd been able to connect with a group of like-minded people.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I could honestly talk to you all day. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Susannah.
Oh, thank you so much, Erin. It's lovely to see you anyway, always.
Honestly, it can feel like there is a lot you need to learn when building a thriving business, and it's easy to feel like you'll never know everything you need to be successful. But it is possible, just so long as you stay focused on building the right knowledge and skills. When you join the Cocoon VIP membership, you'll have the opportunity to book a one-to-one orientation call with me, and I'll help you to prioritise the activities that will have the biggest impact on your business and direct you to the materials in the library that you need. There's no need to learn it all. We'll just focus on the things that will make the biggest difference to you. We have everything you need to build a life-friendly business. So check out the Cocoon now at lifefriendlybusiness.com/cocoon.